from up here went down, and I've heard nothing but stories about it. Oh, the meeting is live. Okay, got it.
We are live. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Echo Chamber. Today we have our favourite Benty back in town. So Benty is, how do we describe Benty? Benty's an author. She's a channeler. She's a intergalactic
Goddess.
warrior. And we love chatting with Benty because she's so unique and special. And where are we going to start this, Benty? Where would you like to start this off today?
Well, it's really interesting. I actually had some very clear ideas, and it's lovely to see you both again. Yeah, I haven't been away. I've just been ruminating, you know, and reflecting on life. But just as you started talking, I had the strong awareness that what I had planned is what we may talk about. But I'm sort of giving the message I need to go more public about my extraterrestrial connections and what they are doing for us at this time.
Yes, please.
So are you up for that? Do you think it's an appropriate subject?
I think that's an incredibly appropriate subject because we're all curious about all the different angles. And we've sort of, as we talked about before, your son and was it daughter that were in Canberra?
Daughter-in-law, yes. Yeah.
Daughter-in-law. So we've got our feet on the ground. We know what's happening on the ground. So why not let us know what's happening on that galactic level, what your guys are telling you.
Right. Well, I'm probably going to ramble because nothing is ever straightforward, as you will understand. Jump in at any time. Pull me up if you need to. Okay. In the last couple of months, I sort of revisited a lot and very, very old interest because I've always been intrigued by our history. You know, how did humans originate? Where did we come from? And it was over 20 years ago that in one of the many channels that came through, I got the clear message that humanity had been seeded by Galactics. And so, of course, I've been doing a lot of reading in the last few weeks. Summer's very good for that because it's too hot most of the time to run around. So it seems as though we've actually been seeded largely from the Anunnaki, which is not news to a lot of people. And I find that very intriguing because from what I understand, the Anunnaki came from Nibiru, the planet that has a very elliptical orbit. And I first learned about Nibiru in the 90s and the fact that it's due to be very close to our planet very, very shortly. Now, if you look up Nibiru on Google or Wikipedia, according to NASA, it's a mythical planet or asteroid or something like that. But it actually comes around every 3,600 years roughly. And every time it does get closer to our planet, there's some sort of magnetic interference or pull that happens. And when this happens, that's when we have a lot of earth changes. They come down to such things as, you know, islands suddenly popping up in the oceans and massive flooding, volcanic activity, increase in volcanic activity, extreme weather conditions, that sort of thing. And we do have earthquakes. We have all of that already starting. Nibiru is quite close to us now, despite the fact that NASA says it's a hoax and it doesn't happen. All you've got to do is look at the weather. But Nibiru is where the Anunnaki actually came from. I don't know if they're still there because I don't channel them and I have no connection with them. But it really got me interested in exactly the extent that we still maintain this connection to not only them, but to the other galactics in other constellations and civilizations. And as I've mentioned before, I've had that contact with them since I was a very young child. And it keeps getting stronger and stronger. And for years, I kept quiet about it. But it's real. Anybody who's had interaction with the galactics will tell you it's real. And it changes your whole perspective on life. So where am I going with this? I know in a previous conversation we had, I mentioned, not in great detail, must have been about a year ago, I started working with a very close friend, FaceTiming in New York. And we started doing a lot of energy work for the planet, preparing us to be able to cope with what's coming in. And so one of the first things we did was we decided that the chemtrails had to go. Now, the opposition from the deep state would have been very, very, very deep and very strong if we had made our presence known. So what we did was we would go into a trance, and we've been doing this roughly about once a week, once every 2 weeks for a year now. We go into a state of emptying our minds and just sitting with the intention, where we call in and ask for galactic support for the highest good for the planet. The first event was the chemtrails. And I never remember exactly how that request is put forward, because I'm in like a theta or an alpha state. So I'm in a semi-zone, you know what I mean? And the first time I did ask that we actually neutralize with their help. We know, basically this is a cry for help, that they actually neutralize the dangerous toxins in any and all geoengineering spraying with the chemtrails. And we ask that this be done for the highest good of the planet. And we both immediately got a yes, it can be done, and it is done. And between the two of us, we have knowing, we have clairvoyance, claircognizance, we have all of it. And we went from there and we sort of said, well, that's the spray. It's all being neutralized, which means by neutralizing, it means either that they would have made it just plain with nothing in it, or maybe they could have changed the frequency of that spray to something that could support the planet rather than damage it. The next thing we asked for was, well, we've got to go from the sprays, all the vats, the big vats that they have globally all around the planet. We have to go from that then to what it is that combines all of these toxins into a mixture. In other words, who and what produces them and where does it happen? And because I work with the Andromedan Alliance nowadays, I'll explain them in a minute. They immediately said, yes, we can do something about the controls. And it was literally like we saw machines that were, putting all of the ingredients into these big vats and mixing them all up, and everything was done remotely. It was done, automatically. We saw that being the controls being switched and turned. So goodness knows what they did with that. And then we asked who is behind this, and it turned out to be dear old Mr. Gates.
The king of chemicals.
Sorry?
The king of chemicals.
Yeah, king of chemicals, Mr. Gates. Yes. So they did something to him, and we literally saw some aspect of him shattering. So I don't know what they did, and it's none of my business, okay? Within a few days, I was down at the beach again, and sure enough, the sky was crisscrossed with all of these chemicals, except there was no smell, and I did not get an allergy reaction. And we started coming across, little comments in social media posts from people in different parts of the world saying there's no smell. Even though the chemtrails are there, there's no smell. So I knew just from my own experience, because normally I'd get a very nasty reaction. And I have to take, what I take? I take vitamin C, garlic and horseradish. It's the only way I could deal with it. So, okay, that was our first success. So since then, yep, we've seen the sprays in the sky, but there's been no smell. Okay. Since then, we've gone in time and again. We've asked for the damage to the marine life and the oceans from Fukushima to be cleared up, to be neutralized and to do no harm. We've had work done for the rainforest to regenerate them. Last weekend, we looked at the 5G. We've done a lot of different things, just where we're guided to go, including helping clear people's energies, their pain that they no longer need. So everything is always for the highest good. But anyway, last weekend we looked at 5G. And my friend has a very interesting type of energy that she uses for healing. She calls it a blue gel. And it works on organic stuff, not inorganic. I work on the inorganic. But anyway, as soon as we started on the 5G, we asked that the frequency be neutralized and would be changed to a harmonization with the frequency of the Earth. And we literally saw all of this blue gel going into the ground, and we saw it globally. It was like they came up underneath all of the towers, about a meter roughly, and everything going snap, crackle, pop, and hissing and making noises. Okay, that's good. That's really, really good. Okay, so from then we had to look at the source and as to where it's coming from. And again, we saw some dials and some buttons and some computer work, to reset the 5G so it no longer actually does the damage, but it will harmonize with people's energies. We've worked on HARP, we've worked on CERN, we've worked on so many things. And now the latest thing that we have to work on is those wave frequency machines that are now in use to control crowds. That's our next job.
I was just going to say, can you make that your next job, please?
It is absolutely on the agenda for our next call, okay? Because that is so damaging and dangerous. However, it needed to happen in order for people to understand fully the extent of the evil that has corrupted our planet, and not only the extent of it, but how deep it goes. Yeah, because it's everywhere. So unfortunately, we still need the wake-up call around some things. But what I like about all of this experience for myself personally is that now I'm talking about it a lot more, because it's time for us as a humanity to realize just how powerful we are. It's up to us. We don't have to sit there and say, oh my God, they've done this and they've done that. It's like, okay, let's get together in a group. Let's put out the intention. We never ever ask for anyone to be harmed. We always ask it as a request. We ask for assistance if it's for the highest good of the planet. In other words, we are not in charge, but we actually put that intention out that this planet needs to be saved. She needs support in her ascension process, because the more she ascends at a faster rate, the quicker we will get through this how can I describe it? I was going to say something not very nice. We can get through this circus, okay?
You
I was
must
going to
be
use a
really
swear
hard,
word.
because I'm just thinking, we're all capable of this, aren't we? We're all capable of setting this. You know, I know that I'm not as powerful as you in that way, because I don't have I haven't had this my whole life. But
Yeah.
I can start today and set the intention, and we can all do that. And we can all add to the healing to speed it up, can't we?
We absolutely can. And look, I learned years ago I could stop a major storm, and a nasty northeasterly in in New York that was heading towards the Hudson Valley where I lived. And I just put out the intention, and I held it and held it. And the last minute, the storm turned. And I heard them say to me, can you see how powerful you are? And I'm going, oh my God, I did it. You know, I was kind of dumbstruck. And then I was reminded that sometimes there's a good reason for a storm, and it's not always beneficial to play too much with the weather.
I heard
Because
something similar the other day. I was listening to it was a Michael Jaco interview, and I can't remember who he was talking to, but they said sometimes you have to let these things play out, because to wake people up. And how do you tell the difference between a man-made or a man-manipulated storm and a natural storm? And is there such a thing as a natural storm anymore, given that there's so much manipulation?
look, my feeling around that last point you made is that you've nailed it, because the natural storms have been, I guess, pushed to one side for so long that it's going to take time for them to settle back into a new sort of pattern. And that by the same token, with Nibiru, you know, making its orbit, a lot of the what we call man-made storms may not be due to any evil. They may actually be due to magnetic and electromagnetic frequencies that are being stirred up. Good question. So let me just talk a little bit about the team that I work with. They are from Andromeda. The beings that I'm actually working with are what they call ninth density or ninth dimension. They are very unassuming. I just often get images or voices. But they were not part of the Galactics that signed an agreement with President Eisenhower, I think it was, or whoever it was in the 1950s. The agreement was signed, I think, in 1957. And I'm sure you've covered this previously. But the agreement when the extraterrestrials came to the planet was that they would provide technology. The good guys, because, you know, out there in the galactics, you've got the good guys and the baddies, just like here on the planet. But the good guys had one condition, and that was no more nuclear explosions, because there has been a nuclear disaster on this planet way, way back. It just literally almost wiped everything out. And, you know, the US military decided, no, we need the military, we need our nuclear bombs. And so instead, they decided to sign with the Orion Greys, and these were the nasty ones. There's two sides to Orion. You've got the good ones, and you've got the ones not so nice. So as a result of that, we've had so much trouble since then. But there are other alliances that were not party to this agreement, because in the agreement, it was made abundantly clear that no other civilization, no galactic civilization, could interfere with what's going on this planet. But the Andromedan Alliance was not a signatory to this, and they will only come in when and if there is a request, and that it in no way has any ripple effect elsewhere, but is beneficial to our planet. I think that's the best way I can describe it. So my friend and I, we always know when there's something else that needs doing, but now is the time for other people to step up and also just go into that space, like you were saying. Okay, what can we do? What energy can we put out for? What can we put out to the universe? How can we request it? I do have another very close friend. She's not up here. She is still in Australia, who understands the Orion energy. And her task is to do a lot of remote viewing, a bit like Michael Jaco. And going back to the rally on the weekend, on Saturday, she did a remote viewing the day before of Parliament House. She went in and she said, this is a new one. It was deserted, absolutely deserted. And she said it was pretty much the same during the protests. So you have to wonder whether or not our Parliament, our federal Parliament, is actually doing a great deal at the moment. She also made the comment that she saw the energy that is underneath our Parliament House, the new one and the old one, underneath both of the houses. It's all connected, and there's a dark energy there. And that dark energy feeds off the energy of people. So that's another job that's got to be, worked on. But she said that explains how and why the population generally in the ACT have been so compliant, because of this dark energy that sits beneath the Parliament houses. But of course, as you know, that would spread out everywhere. Yeah.
Has this dark energy dissipated much over the last kind of couple of years, or is it still as dark as it was? Is there...
My sense was, and I haven't looked at it, and I will need to check in with her because that's her skill. My sense is that the big protest on the weekend stirred things up hugely, because there was such a happy vibe, and people were just full of love and community and connection. It had to be fantastic.
It was magnificent, Benty. It was absolutely, and I can only imagine the 2 weeks that led up to it as well, where that camp was forming and where relationships were being made. And as we know, there's a lot of division going on amongst the groups in Australia who are, leading or standing up and speaking. There's a lot of backstabbing, bitch fighting. To me, that's just sorting the wheat from the chaff. So that's a natural process that needs to happen. But there was so much love on the ground on that Friday and the Saturday that I was there. And then the very next day it turned into, it sort of fell apart because it got broken up. The police came. But
and that was the federal police, wasn't it? It wasn't the ACT police.
I think mainly it was led by the federal police, yes.
That was my gut instinct, yeah.
Yeah, so we had some people saying that the federal police were doing a wonderful job, but a lot of people, and I completely disagree with that. I think they were horrendous and they were harassing people, and they haven't done a wonderful job because they're still there and they were kicking, they're not working for the people. So I don't know.
No, they're not. But I think that if anything that we can take from it, because it's still ongoing, is that we have a responsibility to continue standing up for our rights, whether we do it in protest, and the numbers are great. I've been to many protests in my life, so my role now is to be here and do what I do energy wise, because I worked all weekend at helping with the energies, and I got a lot of people to do that as well. So we all have to step into our power, which is easier said than done. How do we do it? You know, it's easy if you've been on the journey for a long time and you understand it. But how do you do it if you're just starting out?
You read your
So,
books, Benty. People can read your books.
well, they can do that, but there's a lot more they can do. And I really would like to talk about this process. People call it the ascension. Are you okay if we go on to that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. You know, people call it the ascension. I just relate it to a shift in consciousness. You know, lifting your frequency to a higher level, you know, of consciousness. And I've come across so many people over the years who just go, love and light, love and light meditation. And I'm not being dismissive of it, but it's only a small part of the process, because you can do a lot of meditation, you can do a lot of grounding, all of those just to help calm your system down. And that's really important, absolutely important. There have to be changes, though, physically. And this is something that some people are led to very unhappily and unwillingly, because as your frequency shifts, and I'm sure you'd both agree with me, it becomes more and more difficult to hang on to the old ways of living. You know, and one of the most important things that I think that we all can do for ourselves and to support this process is to actually do a lot of cleansing and detoxing, not just of our physical bodies, but also of all the habits that we've been engaging in that have a low frequency. And to also make sure that our food lifestyle becomes really, really clean, that we have clean household and personal products and not the ones that are chemical filled. Because one of the things I channeled way, way back in the 90s was that, you know, you can do all the right things in terms of how you interact and you talk and so forth. But if you're still feeding your face with fast food, processed refined food, using lots of nasty chemicals in and around your house and on your body, you're going to create problems for yourself, because you're going to be doing one good thing, but you're going to be doing it with an anchor tied to you. And that anchor is the habits and the practices that you've engaged in as a third density person. Now, people don't talk about this, do they? Very much.
You know, it blows my mind, Benty. I walk through the supermarket, right? And like you go through and let's just use washing powder for an example. There's like 40 different varieties and they're all full of chemicals. I'm just like, why would anyone buy washing powder that's full of chemicals and that those clothes are going to be sitting on their skin? Same as the hair aisle, the skincare aisle. Why would anyone buy those products? It just baffles my mind. I cannot even comprehend it.
But all you've got to do is go through a supermarket and look at what people have in their trolleys and you see it. And this is not being judgmental, because we understand that the programming has been so deep and so intense. But now it's more about those of us who are awake, finding ways to support the process of shifting into that higher level of consciousness. You know, I've heard people say, well, I'm in fifth dimension, or I'm in fourth dimension. And that's not what it's about. It really is about, how can I put this, activating the DNA that's in your body that has been closed down for a long time. And that it can only be activated by those higher frequencies, which do not survive, the cells don't survive. The DNA doesn't survive when it's fed a lifestyle of junk, going to places where there's heavy energy, consuming a lot of pharmaceutical products. And I realise that some people feel that they have to take it because of health conditions. So I'm not making a judgment. But I did get channeled information that for humans, the things that are dangerous to their frequency, alcohol, caffeine. I love my coffee.
Oh, me too. No,
But
no.
I do limit it. Yes, I do limit it. You know, all of those toxic chemicals that are in our environment. And there are over 80,000 chemicals that have not been approved for humans that are now out there.
That's the thing. We can go and buy organic food, and we can buy, you know, hair products and skin products that are good for us and all that. We still have to walk around outside. We get in our cars, we're breathing in the fumes. We go everywhere we go. We're like in a soup of.
Yes, but we can control it when and wherever we can. Why would you then go and lather cream on yourself that's loaded with chemicals? Why would you use sunscreen that's loaded with chemicals? I mean, it's a no fucking brainer to me. It's just absurd. But yeah, control it where you can.
Yeah. I mean, control it where we can. That's
control it. Yeah. And look, it's going to take a while for our bodies to be able to reach their full potential, because we've had so much in the way of chemicals that have been dumped upon the planet, in our waterways, in the air, and so forth, and in all of our products. However, just being mindful of whether or not something is healthy for you, beneficial to your body, is a good start, because this activation of the junk DNA is vital to this process of shifting into the higher levels of frequency. And it seems as though when we were genetically seeded by our galactic forefathers, that there were aspects of our DNA that was closed off, which is what the I guess what do you call them, the scientists, the ones who work in
Geneticists?
with not the geneticists, but it's also the ones who work with I've just got a brain blip at the moment. But the ones who work the quantum scientists. The thing about it is they look at this DNA, the geneticists, but it's a lot of help. It's part of the quantum field as well. And there are aspects of our DNA that has been closed down, the junk DNA. But the more that we go on this journey, and the higher our individual frequency becomes, the more this junk DNA is activated. And this is partly why it's becoming so much easier for a lot of people to have enhanced intuition, to be able to communicate more with animals, for example, because there is this activation going on. My team keeps reminding me personally, but also for me to share this, that we have to clean up ourselves and our planet, because it's vitally important. That's the only way I can put it.
And does it start with our thoughts, Benty? I mean, our thoughts.
Yeah.
To say, I know I have to do this, or I know I have to do that. Therefore, I can, because I'm aware of it. So we need to be aware of it first, don't we?
We do indeed. And I saw this brilliant saying on social media this week. In order to love who you are, you cannot hate the experiences that shaped you. So we go right back to working from the heart center and not the head. It's really, really important. Because we're really at a critical time now, and this is what I keep getting from them. Not that they talk a great deal, I just get the knowing nowadays, and I see things, and then I might just hear a word or two. But the knowing is so much, as Bella, you would understand this, you get a lot of information in a tiny little nanosecond. And every one of us, no matter where you are on your journey of shifting into these higher frequencies, is very powerful, because the energy we hold, we carry with us everywhere. And the ripple effect of that is far greater than we understand. And it's not the time now to close down and hide from the world. It's not the time to hold your truth within, thinking that you're going to be mocked or laughed at. It's time to be who you are. And you mentioned thoughts. The other thing that's really important is letting go and moving on from toxic relationships, friendships. And this is a tough one that people are experiencing now. And they're seeing it with all the mandatory fake rules where, you know, people are losing families because they have to be, it's important to be who you are. It's literally like a soul calling that is stepping up with the energies right now and saying, step into your power, own who you are, speak your truth, do it gently and with love. This is the sort of message I'm getting. I don't think I'm the only one.
You know, Benty, and I think we've all been programmed and conditioned, and I witnessed it happen in my own family the other day, and it was so innocent on my husband's part, but he didn't realize that he was conditioning our son. My 2-year-old son, he was feeling really sooky in the afternoon. He's not typically a sooky boy, and he come up and he wanted to cuddle, and he was leaning in and he started crying, and I said, "Are you okay?" And he looked me right in the eyes and he said, "I miss home, Mama." And I knew what he meant instantly. I knew that he was missing his star family. And I said, "Oh, that's really sad. I'm sorry that you're missing home." And I gave him a cuddle, and my husband said, "Oh, don't be silly. You are home." That's a silly thing to say. And that was so innocent on my husband's part because he didn't understand what my son was saying. He didn't have the level of perception he just didn't get it. So he conditioned him without even realizing he was doing it. And that's been happening to all of us our whole lives. And that's what we're unraveling and we're waking up out of.
Yeah. And sometimes we get a real kick up the rear end because, whoopsies, you know, I should have known better. I should have done this. But there's no shoulds. It's a case of how can I reframe? How can I reframe it so that it has an energy that is supportive rather than detrimental? And that means mindfulness. And the beauty of this, because as you know, I'm retired. I do have clients, but I'm semi-retired. So I have a lot more time on my hands, and I get out and I have some great coffee groups. I didn't think I'd ever be doing this, but I'm loving it because there is this opportunity where we get together and we actually create this harmonics of the energies that goes beyond where we are. Everybody is impacted. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody loves the energy. Those people who are so caught up in the conditioning and programming actually find it very uncomfortable. And this is one of the things that we just have to accept, that the stronger and higher the frequency of shift is within us as we move through the layers of the densities, not everybody is going to join us. We can say it. However, it's going to be a powerful trigger for people who are not comfortable with it. And very often that can be very close friends, it can be partners, families, neighbours. And the challenge therein lies to not make a judgment and to understand where that person is coming from rather than rising to the bait that they may be handing out, you know? Sounds easy, but it's not.
They might not even be handing out bait, at least not on purpose. It might be the metaphysical sort of bait, like Bella was talking about somebody close to her who had already had 2 of the, and said, "That's it, I've been a fool and a sheep, I'm not going to get the 3rd." But Bella just found out she's gone and got the 3rd. And it's like, because it's like, hang on a minute, you said this and now you've done that. What prompted you? And it's like, they mightn't even say, it might just be part of a conversation that's just like, "Oh my God, I thought we had this one down." And it's like, how do we respond to love with, you know?
Well, just love them because it's a soul choice. That was the position I had to come to when I became aware that my 3 children, my adult children, and 6 out of my 8 grandchildren have all been, you know.
Whoa.
And look, it doesn't stop my love for them.
No.
I accept that it's their soul choice, and you've got to go. But are you aware? And this is something that I had happened a few months ago. Might have been since we last connected. That I just started hearing this voice in my head, and I went, "Whoa, that's not me. That's not my higher self. It's not my team." I kept hearing this voice telling me, "Go and get vaccinated. Go and get. It's good. It's
I
safe."
had that too, Benty, and I'm like, fuck off. I'm not
I know,
getting
that was
it. Stuff.
I used the same word. I told them to F off, and how dare you violate my space. So in one of my coffee groups, I raised this, and I got quite a number of blank looks, but there were 2 or 3 people who said yes. So this subliminal programming, it's not just on in our media. They must be broadcasting this message on a frequency band into people's minds. And this is probably why in response to the issue that you raised as friend, you went back and got the 3rd one. I would say that a lot of people have had that voice in their head, not being aware that it was a foreign voice. Probably thinking, "Oh, I've got to go and do it." Okay, thinking it was okay. It's come from me. If you know, do you know what I mean? And I think that's where.
This, my friends, is why it is psychological war. This is,
Yeah.
you know, what we're talking about. This is 24/7 fear porn, brainwashing, subliminal messaging.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness. I've actually spoken to people that I was no. And then one day I just woke up and was like, oh, I'm going to go do it. I was like, how do you just wake up one day and say, I'm going to go do it? That's how, right?
That's how. Well, back in the 90s, when I was working with the beautiful team from the Arcturus constellation, in some of the channeling I did, it was pointed out, first of all, there would be no more nuclear wars on the planet, but also World War III would be a war for the mind. I've still got that somewhere, written down somewhere, but I remember very clearly that being said. They also stated that there would be so much information that would be coming from all sorts of directions, and we would be overloaded with information. And to have discernment. In my channeling, I've also gotten information that we're going to come out of this. When I channel the energy of the soul, I'd like to put a good spin on this because I think we can talk about the catastrophes forever and ever, but there are some good things. I channeled the energy of the soul that incarnated as Edgar Cayce. And I did that for a number of years to audiences, which I've probably mentioned it before. But one of the things that would come through a number of times, because I was in such a deep trance and I had to record everything, was that from where I am sitting, he would say, from where I am sitting, you have come out the other side. From where I am sitting. However, along the way and through this process, there will be a lot of pain and discomfort and many, many changes. There were things like, we can see it happening now, education, the media is changing, going into, community journalism and so forth, politics, governance, the land use. We're going to go into clean energy, clean, free energy. But we are the ones who are going to be doing this. And I got the image quite some time ago of so many of our younger generation, the ones who may be 17, 18 to 25, maybe 30, they know who they are and they know why they're here. And some of these are going to be the ones who invent, stuff that they've come here to invent to really make the changes much better for us. So it's all good. We're right in the thick of it now. And, you know, I often wake up feeling so excited because I know this is coming in.
I find that age group, that millennial sort of age group, fascinating, because a lot of them are so switched on and so intelligent, and they've got all this, they just know stuff. But the majority of them seem to be, they're just stuck in either TikTok or Instagram or the Kardashians, or they're really stuck in the matrix. But the ones that are awake are really awake.
Oh, yes, they are. And not all of them are awake. But I know young people up here who've actually moved away and are working with others on the land. They're very keen to become more self-reliant, self-sufficient. I'm not saying that they're going to move right away, because you still need community. But we will gradually evolve into the types of community where we are more connected within the community, and as a community, we make the rules. We determine what's appropriate for our needs. That's how we're going to be living. And they're going to be these little communities are going to be dotted all over the planet in time. And the big cities, they'll end up looking like Chernobyl. You know, nature comes back in, nature takes over. The big cities will wither. They will collapse, which is really good.
It's just so much, isn't it?
It is.
You know, there's so much talk about the alien stuff at the moment, and people seeing stuff in the sky, and the Nibiru with the two suns and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Are you seeing, are you feeling, are you hearing anything around that, like the extra focus on Earth at the moment? Or?
I'm aware it's happening. There's a lot of it on social media. A lot of interesting videos are coming out. I have to be honest and confess that my focus has been more on working with our precious planet to do everything that I can do energetically, and that takes a lot of work, particularly as I've had a lot of energy upgrades. And by the way, you've both had upgrades too, haven't you?
I don't know what's going on anymore. Maybe.
Well, okay, so do your listeners and do your audience understand what's meant by an upgrade?
I think a vast majority do. Some may not.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
yeah, I'm not sure that I do, really.
Okay, what happens is for a lot of people, what they feel is they feel tingling all over, often when they're in bed at night, when their bodies are relaxed, because that's the time that we do a lot of astral travel, and we escape from this physical form, as we know. And what this is, it's just like you do an upgrade on your phone or your computer. You are literally shifting to a higher frequency. But with that, anything that's of a lower frequency then reacts, which is very often why we get headaches. We feel very, very tired. We may have vomiting, diarrhea, you know, even a fever, all this sort of thing, cold, flu. You know, our body has to purge what is of a lower frequency. So for a lot of people, these are very, very gentle. These upgrades, they're a download, which upgrades your system, because we are an electromagnetic system. We are like a computer, and that's the way we've been created with our DNA. And so even if people are not consciously aware of it, that's what's happening to them. And what they're going to find is, in the early stages, they're going to question why they suddenly have these unusual thoughts, or they feel differently, or they may suddenly find themselves going into a lot of anger or tears, a lot of grief. This planet is filled with grief. And this is all old stuff. The other thing that I keep saying to clients over the years is that often there's a pain somewhere in the body. And people may go to the doctors, if you can get to a doctor nowadays. They may go to a doctor, and the doctor will say, well, there's nothing there. You can run all the tests, there's nothing there. that pain is an energetic pain in most instances. And it's literally an old trauma memory that is clearing out of the body. And my favorite saying is, I release with love, whatever it may be. I release with love all that no longer serves my highest good. It works. It really, really works. And it may be uncomfortable, and it often is, but it takes time. The other thing that I encourage people to do is make sure they are well hydrated. You know, we live in a, like yourselves, I live in a, very warm climate, so I've always got water. But in other places, it's easy to forget. We need to be well hydrated for this process, and to avoid the foods that slow us down, because we are a well-oiled machine. And what these upgrades are doing is, as I say, they're shifting your frequency, but consciously, we're not in charge. It's our higher awareness. It's our soul. It's that aspect of ourselves that is eternal. We are determining the rate at which this happens. And in many instances, there's a real feeling of, I've got to do this and I've got to do that. That is an inner wisdom that comes through. And it's really important to listen to it, because over the next few months, next year or two maybe, and this is what I keep being shown, is these tumbleweeds going along, they get blown along by the wind. Well, I keep seeing them accelerating and going faster and faster. So events are going to go really, really fast. And I would encourage all your listeners, all your viewers, to absolutely step up and to, make sure they do everything to support their own individual shift, because it's going to make them a lot stronger for it. Yeah. I feel like I'm lecturing, and I apologise for that.
No. So the thing is, we need to detox our mind. We need to detox our body. We need to detox our environment. We need to just to detox.
Yeah.
At the best of our ability. And
yeah.
In that process, then we become a clearer channel, so that we do begin to understand what an upgrade is.
Mm-hmm. You summarised it beautifully.
We are the antidote to our own. Like, let's say, I want to give up coffee, but then the next day you get up and drink coffee, right? So be your own antidote. Be your own, commit to yourself.
Yeah.
And, like, if your soul is asking you to give up coffee, then that's what you have to do. If your soul's not asking you to give up coffee for the moment, then don't.
My soul would never ask me to give up coffee.
But it's okay to have that. I like chocolate and I like an occasional coffee. We don't have to suffer that much. But, there are other things that are more damaging to the human body than those things.
But
yeah.
I agree, and I've learned, because I've been trying to alkalize, and I've learned that coffee's acid for me and all of that. So I've actually cut back on coffee. I've cut back on dairy. There are still things I do that are really not good, but I know they're not good, at least.
Yeah, but after a while, you'll just wean yourself off those things. You'll know when, and your taste buds will change. The one thing that I find really interesting about going through this process is that as you go along, your need for food diminishes. You need less and less. It's interesting, as a dense third-dimensional body, you've got to have a big plate of food and eat well and so forth. But as you go along, unless you're hyperactive and you do a lot of sports and things like that, you're going to find that it takes a lot less to fill you up, providing it's clean food. Yeah,
and I've always been a big eater. I have to have my 3 meals a day, and I'll snack. But now I'm kind of like, I think I can just have a juice or a shake or something. I don't need that big meal. So yeah, that's one thing I've noticed.
Yeah,
Well, last night I woke up in the middle of the night and I had like the old dial-up sound, when you dial up your internet, it's like in my ears. Yeah. I was like, oh, there it is. There's an upgrade, Ding, 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 ding.
Yep,
it's right inside the ear, deep.
Yep, and we're going to have all sorts of horrible symptoms as we go through this process. And I always say, talk to your body, give it gratitude, appreciate what it's going through, because this is how did Edgar describe it? He said this is a step forward in our evolution. This is an evolutionary step forward. In other words, our bodies are getting an upgrade through this process.
Yeah, and we're not suggesting that people don't go to the doctor if you don't just write it all to Ascension. But one thing I can share in my experience especially is that Ascension symptoms move around. They don't stay in the same place in the body. You might have a sore knee, a sore hip, a sore shoulder, a sore jaw, sore teeth. Ascension symptoms move around. They don't stay in the same spot. So if you have the exact same spot every day, pain for months, then yeah, maybe you check that out. But for the most part, they move around.
They move around a lot. And I always say, go and see an osteopath, go and get an acupuncture treatment, get a massage. All of those things support the body's processing as it shifts. Yeah,
we need to ask for help, don't we? If we need it, we shouldn't stay stuck in the and especially if it's an old paradigm. Because I used to be like, oh no, I can do it myself. But I've learned over the years to say, actually, no, I need help. So yeah,
yep, and it's really, really important because we have been deliberately separated, as we all know. But now we are forging community, and a lot of our community will not necessarily be with those that we've been with previously. Yeah, it's exciting.
It's so exciting, Benty, and we're glad that you're in our community, and the Echo Chamber love you. So
I love you all too. And look, my role is basically just to be a conduit for the energies and the information. That's my role at this time of my life. Nothing else. But it requires a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy to do what I do. When I run the sort of energy that I do run, it can be tiring on the body because it affects the physical body as well. And
I'm sure people would, well, there's probably nobody that's, looking, but you could look at somebody who's in doing your work and they appear to be doing nothing. But the work that they're doing is literally moving mountains. So we can't judge people, can we, on what they're doing anymore?
No. Just because I can no longer go to all of the demonstrations and the protests and so forth because my energy is so sensitive that I pick up on too many people's energy, and the noise absolutely has an impact. I need peace and quiet, but we also need the warriors out there.
I'm like you, Benty. I've been to a couple of protests, but they're not my thing. I feel like that what my role is I'm better. My role is other places. And I've made an appearance at a couple of protests, and quite often we get messages on the Echo Chamber like, why aren't you in Canberra? Why aren't you here? And when it's like, we hold this platform, we hold this space, we're putting out interviews every week, we're doing, our role is just a little different. Jane loves going to the protests, but for me, not so much. I'm serving in another way, like yourself, Benty.
Yeah, and each role is valid and has value. It really, really does, because it's like you've got an organization. You might have the spokesperson for the organization, and then you might have a few others behind that spokesperson to become well known. But what about all the people who are working quietly behind the scenes? And I've known for many years that there are a lot of us who work quietly behind the scenes, and we just do what we do without talking about it. And I hope I didn't go over too much about the extraterrestrial stuff today. However, it's time for people to understand we are not alone, and to also realize that, we've got the message. There is a possibility of a false flag alien attack. We've read about it, but I pretty much ignored it, but I just got the message, mention it, okay? There will be no attack. Absolutely no attack. In actual fact, the good guys hold such a high frequency that it would not be easy for them to land on this planet. It would not be easy for them to hold the lower vibration, particularly as Earth herself is going through these changes now. So she's literally purging all of that pain and that suffering, which is why we see the earthquakes and volcanic eruptions and so forth. So yeah, we're not going to
We've
get
all seen the movie War of the Worlds, right, with Tom Cruise, and the aliens come down and invade, and then 2 days later they all die because of the bacteria on the Earth. They can't survive, right? Earth is a very sensitive ecosystem, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, that their decision was to sit back and monitor, and to only come in to assist when that assistance is required, but they will not come in and assist for personal reasons, if that makes sense. Because, you know, I need a new car, so can you go and get me a new vehicle? Nothing like that.
Can they give me the lotto numbers for the 80 million tonight?
Good try.
Good try.
I'll share it with everyone on the echo chamber.
Oh, look, what I know we're running probably short of time, but I'd like to share one thing that came through from the Arcturians. And they were talking about how our world has pretty much been inverted, you know. And they basically indicated that the power and wealth struggle, the power and the wealth balance would change, and that those who have been without will gain riches, and those who have had a life of riches will experience the opposite.
Yeah, and you know, I'm not a biblical person, but it is, you know, the meek shall inherit the earth, and
yeah, exactly.
and the well-intentioned and the well-hearted and the
yeah, and that was way back 20 plus years ago. I got that information. You know, just little nuggets like that, you know, and one of the other things that came through when I was living in Seattle, and this is very profound. It really, really hit me. Basically, the comment was, there will be no peace on earth until there is peace in the hearts of humanity. Profound?
On that.
Well, we have peace. Thank you, Benty, for joining us. And
thank you.
We were both a bit wound up before we came on today, but now we're not. So
come back to centre.
So thank you again for joining us. We'll let you go there because we're over the hour, and it's always a pleasure. Yeah. Bella's off to Mexico next week, so you won't see her in next to me for a while.
Ooh, that is a big step.
I don't know if you've been following my story, Benty, but my mama got diagnosed with terminal cancer, and Western medicine says that there's no cure. And I simply don't accept that. So I've literally had to move mountains to get out of this country unvaccinated and over to Mexico to do treatment. And I've created a pathway, and we leave next Friday. So
you will be fine. And, you know, I know quite a few people who've gone to Mexico. When I lived in the States, a lot of my clients went to Mexico for cancer treatment. So, yep, it will all go well because it's meant to be. And you may end up doing something with all the information, whether it's writing a book or getting up and speaking about it. But this is preparation for something else for you.
I feel like that's the case, yes. And, you know, to make this trip happen, like, firstly, I had to find $180,000. Secondly, I had to get out of the country unvaccinated over there. And what one woman can achieve when she puts her mind to something is, it's quite extraordinary what we can achieve, people. So don't think that you are powerless, because I'm just an ordinary, everyday Aussie. And if I can do it, so can you. We are not powerless. They'll have us believe that, but we are not.
No, not at all.
She's not ordinary and she's not your everyday, but that's okay. We'll allow her that modesty just this once.
But none of us are ordinary.
That's right.
None of us are powerless. It's just once you come to know yourself, you recognize it. So well done. Kudos to you. I do know about the expense of going over there and the difficulties, because a number of my friends have taken that route and gone across rather than stay here and be hounded by, you know,
Well,
certain organisations.
all we can offer you is chemo to prolong life. There's no cure. You are dying, or we take a chance and we do something different. So, you know, to think that we have to go all the way to Mexico to get these treatments is actually criminal in itself. But look, we know that all that's going to change in the future. We know that. So, you know, we're just creating the new paradigm. The people like myself and the people that are not willing to just bend over and say, oh, okay, I just can't do it. We're creating the new paradigm. We're showing people what's possible. And then it's like that ripple effect you said, the energy, right? You don't know who you're affecting, and then they go out and do the same, and they go out and do the same. Before you know it, there's a wave, an awakening on the planet that's like, actually, no, I'm not going to take that lying down. I'm going to choose a different reality.
Exactly. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're in the process of discovering and learning how to work our way through it. We're in the early stages.
Yes.
It's beautiful. But all the best. All the best, Bella.
Thank
Oh, I'm
you.
excited for you.
We'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah, please do.
All right,
Okay,
well,
beautiful.
thank you, Benty, and thank you everyone for joining us today, and we will see you all next time.
Ciao.
Thanks, Benty.
Bye.